You already know how we do. We practice good etiquette and always worshiping the Lord and putting God first. So we're going to start with scripture. And this scripture is going to be out of Nahum chapter 3 verse 6, which is the scripture that was in the beginning of the movie Nope. And it reads like this: I will pelt you with filth. I will treat you with contempt and make you a spectacle. Woo! Going into this movie, I didn't really know what to expect, because it's not like the previews was very foretelling as to what this movie was going to be. I knew just from some of the images that it would kind of be something to kind of freak you out a little bit, kind of have some different elements to kind of spook you out. But I was also wondering, like, okay, what is this thing? I kept seeing like this wide shot of the UFO and Daniel Kuya. I hope I'm saying that name correct. But you saw him riding on the horse and a big UFO behind him and all the dust flying up. So you knew that there was some sort of like extraterrestrial outside space presence coming to the earth and all of that stuff. But you just didn't know what direction they were going to take it. Now, let me just tell y'all first and foremost, man. I was very excited to go see this movie. I was really looking forward to Jordan Peele's his third film, if I'm not mistaken. And let me just say this, man. I felt two ways about it. I was like, I enjoyed it, and then there was a side of me that was just like, huh? What? Yeah, it's like that. Now, essentially, I'm not gonna go over the whole movie because who wants to do that? But basically, the alien comes, or the UFO comes. They realize that it's not really a UFO, it's really a living creature. Like I said, I'm not gonna summarize this thing. If you're gonna see it, you're gonna see it. If not, it's not. Okay, this is for the people who have seen it, and never gonna break it down, because I'm pretty sure you don't need to hear this again. You saw it. All right, now, what were the deeper meanings of this movie? Well, let's get into it. Now, in the beginning, I want you all to kind of take grasp of what this movie was really trying to convey. And go back to that scripture, I will make you a spectacle. And this is basically when God was telling this evil, defiled nation that how evil they were. He's going to lift up their skirts. He's going to basically let everyone see how dirty and nasty you truly are. He's going to deal with you in contempt. These are other interpretations of the Bible, of that scripture that they had in the movie. And that's what the movie and the premises of it was. It was spectacle everywhere. The people were a spectacle. The people were looking for a spectacle. They ended up becoming a spectacle. And it also had a lot to do with exploitation and people going out of their way, almost risking their lives for money, for clout, and just that message of people would do anything for it. They do anything for clout. They'll do anything for clout. That's what the basic premise was. And that's why in the beginning, when we saw that chimpanzee just start snapping, it basically it's telling the viewer that people as humans, we think that we can tame everything. We think that we have the right to everything. We have the right to tame animals. We have the right to tame the environment and the wilderness. We have a right to also exploit these things, exploit animals, exploit the environment, exploit the wilderness, all for monetary gain. And it was almost as if this film is just trying to let you know that the jig is up. The jig is up for you humans. Okay, the time has come now for the tides to turn. You can't exploit these animals for money anymore. You can't be out here really just trying to get the perfect shot. I mean, and if you look at it, you really take a step back. I mean, just look at our society today. There could be danger a couple feet, a couple yards away from you. But people, instead of running away from it, they're whipping out their phones and they're filming it. They're taking out their cameras. They're trying to get the shot. They're hoping to sell something to TMZ, who actually made an appearance in the movie. TMZ, there was some guy on an electric bike. He was from TMZ trying to also get footage of this creature, this UFO. And then so many other people started getting involved as well. It just lets you know how hungry people are for that notoriety, that fame, that clout, and to a fault. A lot of people got themselves hurt. A lot of people got themselves injured. A lot of people got themselves killed. Another thing, they couldn't keep themselves from looking at this thing. Again, you're looking. I said we're going to focus on that word spectacle, right? So people become a spectacle and they look for a spectacle. And people look for a spectacle so much so to a fault that they end up hurting themselves too. And it's just like that in real life, and that's what happened in the movie. If you all saw how again, I keep forgetting his name, Yupe, somebody, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Asian character who had he had that ranch. It was like a little playland. I think it was called Jupiter's Landing, something like that. Well, anyway, he was there, and he had been basically getting this creature, this monster, to come, and he was sacrificing horses who were OJ's horses and his, their family business horses. He was getting those horses sacrificed, all for monetary gain and all to show these people, and he wants to see it. Well, this one particular time, the creature, the horse was smart enough to stay in the stable and say, "Oh no, you go out there and stay out there, and I'm gonna watch you get sacrificed." And that's what ended up happening. The alien came down, it sucked him up, it sucked everybody else up. And I know people were probably wondering, like, what was going on with that scene, because it also had this lady who the guy he knew from the sitcom, and her face was just like this, you know what I'm saying? Her face was looking crazy as hell. Her face is behind this veil, and they show her, and her teeth was pulled back, and it just looked like she had just been mauled. And me personally, I think, they really didn't explain it, but I just think and put two and two together, like, okay, that was just the results of her, getting mauled by this chimpanzee. So her and an old dude was basically the only survivors of that incident. But there was something very weird about that scene. Again, I told you, we talked about the shoe that was just standing up on its own, and then those balloons. There were balloons in that scene that just started popping by themselves. Now, I'm going to go even a little deeper. We're going to put the tinfoil kufi on, right? Me personally, I think when Jordan, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to just put the tinfoil kufi on. I believe Jordan Peele had that scene in there. One, with the Asian character and everything is strategic, everything is tactful, right? If you think about it, Egyptians and ancient Asian civilizations are the only people of this whole history of our earth that have ever been documented to have some sort of contact with extraterrestrials. And we know this because if you go and study hieroglyphics and see hieroglyphic pictures, you will see that they had so many drawings of them basically communicating with things that came from the sky. They have pictures of things that look like UFOs, and also pictures of things that look like what we describe as aliens today. And so that was just very interesting. And it was almost as if they were trying to make it seem like the Asian boy knew that there was some alien presence, and he knew not to look Gordy in the eyes, and just to focus on that shoe instead of Gordy, basically mauling everybody. So that was one thing. Also, somebody would say, why did they use a chimpanzee and not, a lion, tiger, or a bear? A lion, tiger, or a bear, or some other animal. Well, another thing, chimpanzees were documented for being sent up to space. So I'm just seeing like, what are all these little breadcrumbs that Jordan Peele is dropping? Now, if you all know anything like I do when it comes to that pale white horse, that is in the Bible, and it is not for a good reason. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, don't take my word for it. Let's look at it. It says right here in Revelation 6, and this is in the KJV. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And you'll be a crazy person to act like you don't realize and know that our world today is just becoming very sickening. Everybody is just chasing money. Everybody is chasing clout. Everybody is chasing fame. And everybody is just living for their own self, their own desires. When we as people, blessed with life from God, we should be servants to the King of Kings. You can either get with it or get lost, because a lot of these movies, they're not even movies anymore. They're more so like PSAs, public service announcements, because they're just telling you what's happening. I recently watched Jurassic Park, and I noticed that movie was basically just telling of how they want to do the food shortage, and it even referenced locusts, and it referenced cloning, and it referenced all of these artificial things. And I mean, look at the world today. Everything is fake. You don't even know what you eating is real. You don't know if that lady that you watching and looking at is real. You don't even know if that lady is a lady. It's like this, man. You can either watch that from, a regular human standpoint and be entertained and just like, wow, cool visuals and things of that nature. And that's cool. But if you're like me, if you're a believer, if you're in the word and you know things, and when you see things, you just kind of know, hey, man, this is just that time to take heed, because you know how God is. You know what I'm saying? You know that God will not let nations who stray away from him go unpunished. He will make sure that people reap what they sow, and the clock is ticking for sure. And with that being said, man, as with everything, don't take my word for anything. Do your own research, whether in the word or with anything that we talked about, or look at the movie for yourself.